Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome everybody to the Bhagavad-Gita class. And we're reading texts 37 and 38. But last time I gave class, I was talking about some of the warriors in the first chapter, observing the army on the battlefield. And because there was in one class there was a person who asked about the character of Shalya. And I became interested in reading about them because I remember when I first started reading the Gita, I couldn't really get into the first chapter because, they're just warriors and, like that. So I thought to make it more personal, to see other characters and make it more personal to me, I started, reading about some of the characters in the warriors who were on the battlefield. And so today I want to complete the information about Shalya, and also I want to talk about Satyaki, one of the other warriors. He was Atirata. And so So Atirata is a warrior who is considered equal to 12 Ratis, and it means he's capable of contending with 60,000 warriors at one time. So if I remember, I left off with Shalya. Shalya had gone over to Duryodhana's side, but he was tricked into joining Duryodhana. I don't know how many of you here when I gave that background about Shalya, but I can repeat it briefly and then expand on the rest of his pastime. He was the brother to Madri, who was married to Pandu. So he's the uncle of Nakula and Sahadev. So he was on his way to join the Pandavas when he came across I guess we could say an oasis. It was kind of set up for the comfort of the soldiers, because it was a long trip. And so there was entertainment, there was food, there were, so many comfortable things for them to rest. It was a resting stop. So Satyaki, he came to that place, and he was so impressed, and he thought that Yudhisthira was the one who had set it up. So he was so happy. So he was all comfortable, and he took advantage of all the facilities that had been provided there. And then the next morning when he was about to leave, who should come in but Duryodhana? He thought it was Yudhisthira, but then Duryodhana came, and he was a little bit shocked, but he had already taken advantage of the facilities and taken Duryodhana's hospitality, so that obligated him. So Shalya asked Duryodhana, how can I thank you for providing these facilities for me that was so nice? So then Duryodhana said, yeah, just join my side, be on my side of the battle, not on the Pandava side. So Shalya had to accept. He was like, okay, because, he was obligated. That made an obligation. So this is the part that I didn't tell. So Shalya went back to talk with Yudhisthira, and he told Yudhisthira what had happened, that the whole thing had been set up, and that now he's forced to fight on the opposite side with the Kauravas. So then I think Bhima and one other person got a little angry with him, but Yudhisthira told him, okay, if you have to fight on that side and become Karna's charioteer, then when you're riding with Karna on his chariot, you should always try to discourage him. Like try to bring down his morale while you're being his charioteer. So Shalya agreed. Okay, I'll do that. Okay. So then when he actually became, because Karna wasn't in the battle at the beginning, Karna didn't come into the battle till after Bhishma was taken down by Arjuna. So then Karna came and Shalya became his charioteer. So the whole time Shalya was, like discouraging Karna, talk about how great Arjuna was and how he couldn't compare with Arjuna, and he was just talking to make himself feel emboldened to fight with Arjuna. But then after some time in the battle, Shalya began to appreciate some of Karna's qualities. So then he started moving away from what he was assigned to do by Yudhisthira, and he started, really actually appreciating Karna and really actually being on his side and fighting, for Karna. And then, so also, and Shalya was supposed to be killed by Yudhisthira. Each of the Pandavas had someone that they were assigned to kill. That there was Bhima was to kill Duryodhana. Yudhisthira was to kill Shalya. Either Sahadev or Nakula were assigned to kill Shakuni, and Arjuna was assigned to kill Karna. So that's all on him. Then the next person that I just wanted to share with you, because when we read it then and we see all these names, we can, understand who they are and what part they played in the battle. So the next person was Satyaki, who was very devoted to Lord Krishna. And his other name was Yuyudan. You'll see that in the chapter that Yuyudan is mentioned, and that's actually Satyaki. And so Satyaki belonged to the Vrishni clan. And he was one of Arjuna's students. And then he was also a co-student under Dronacharya. And he was such a good warrior that he broke Drona's bow 101 times. And he was known as the unconquerable Satyaki. Satyaki means a piercing weapon. And he was an Ayurvedic physician. He was expert in surgery. And he also did all the last rites for the Pandavas. He was their closest living relative at the end of the battle. And then he also did the last rites for his cousin, Abhimanyu. And Satyaki had 10 sons, all of whom were killed by Bhurishvara, who was another character that I'm looking up in the, as one of the warriors in the battle. So that's what wanted to share with everyone. So now we'll move on to the text for today. And it's 2 texts, so we can do the responsive reading in text 37, and then I'll read text 38. So, 37. Hatovai prapsyasi swargam jitbhava bhokshase mahim tasmadutishta kaunteya Yudhaya kritanishchaya Hatovai prapsyasi swargam Jitbhava prokshasi mahim Tasmadutishta kaunteya Yudhaya kritanishchaya Hatovai prapsyasi swargam Jitva bokshase mahim. Tasmadutishta kaunteya. Yudhaya kritanishaya. Devotees. Atova papsese vakam. Pasase swagam. Jidva amokshase mahim. Tasmadutishta kaunteya. Yudaya kritanishaya. Atova prapsase swagam. Jidva amokshase mahim. Tasmadutishta kaunteya. Udada kritanishaya. Vaishnavis. Atova prapsase swagam. Nava mokshase mahim. Tasmadutishta kaunteya. Atova prapsase swagam. Tasmadutishta kaunteya. Yudaya kritanishaya. Anyone else? Okay. Oh. Atova prapsase swagam. Tasmadutishta kaunteya. Yudaya kritanishaya. Okay, word for word. Hata, being killed. Va, either. Prapshasi, you gain. Swargam, the heavenly kingdom. Jitva, by conquering. Va, or. Bokshasi, you enjoy. Mahim, the world. Tasmat, therefore. Utishta, get up. Kaunteya, oh son of Kunti. Yudhaya, to fight. Krita, determined. Nishchaya, in certainty. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight. So please repeat, O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Even though there was no certainty of victory for Arjuna's side, he still had to fight. For even being killed there, he could be elevated into the heavenly planets. Text 38. Sukha dukkhe samayakritva lab halabha. Oh, we can repeat it. If you want, we will repeat it. You can repeat Sukha dukkhe samayakritva laba laba jaya jayao tato yudhaya ujashwa naivam papam avapshasi. So I'll just move on to the translation. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. And by so doing, you shall never incur sin. Purport. Lord Krishna now directly says that Arjuna should fight for the sake of fighting, because he desires the battle. There is no consideration of happiness or distress, profit or gain, victory or defeat in the activities of Krishna consciousness. That everything should be performed for the sake of Krishna is transcendental consciousness. So there's no reaction to material activities. He who acts for his own sense gratification, either in goodness or in passion, is subject to the reaction, good or bad. But he who has completely surrendered himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness is no longer obliged to anyone, nor is he a debtor to anyone, as one is in the ordinary course of activities. It is said, Devarshi bhutapta nirnam pitrinam na kinkaro nayam rinina rajan. Savatmana ya saranam sarayam gato mukundam paritya kartam. Anyone who has completely surrendered unto Krishna Mukunda, giving up all other duties, is no longer a debtor, nor is he obliged to anyone, not the demigods, nor the sages, nor the people in general, nor kinsmen, nor humanity, nor forefathers. That's a Bhagavad-Gita 11:541. That is the direct hint given by Krishna to Arjuna in this verse, and the matter will be more clearly explained in the following verses. So we're seeing that in this chapter, Arjuna has expressed his doubts, and he's giving so many arguments and reasons about why he should not fight and what alternatives he should take, like going to the forest. But the root of his difficulty is that he's on the body, he's in illusion because his conclusions are all based on the bodily concept of life. So how can he, come to the correct conclusion of what he's supposed to do until he accepts Krishna as his spiritual master? So it's like, I was listening to a class by Burjan Prabhu, and he was saying it's like us saying that 1 + 1 = 3. If you start out with the wrong premise, then how are you going to come to any correct answer? You're not going to get the correct answer that you want, for the problem. So all of his subsequent arguments against fighting were wrong. They were incorrect, okay? So then he surrenders to Krishna, and Krishna begins to instruct him. And in the first part of the chapter, Krishna starts giving him gyan, knowledge about the soul, letting him understand how the body is temporary and how the soul is eternal, and why he shouldn't be lamenting about the killing of the body of anyone. Because either way, the body is going to leave, it's going to pass away, but the soul is always going to be there, it's going to be eternal. So that's what he's, instructing him, telling him the difference between the body and the soul, the material and spiritual. He's giving him instructions. So he just tells him you should do your duty. Then and that's from, I think that Gyan information ends around the 29th or 30th text. And then the transition starts happening to, he starts talking about Kamakanda, because you notice in, let's see, in text 37, he starts telling him about, this is the Kamakanda section, about, I think it starts at 31. And he starts telling him about what he can gain or lose. It's about profit and loss. So it's Kamakanda. He's telling him, first, that if you don't perform your religious duty, then you'll incur sins for neglecting your duties and lose your reputation as a fighter. And someone as important as Arjuna certainly, wouldn't want to lose his reputation as a noted fighter. And then Krishna tells him, how people will talk about you and infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. And then he talks about how the great generals have esteemed his name and fame, and they won't think that he left the battlefield because, of compassion or compassion for them, or whatever. They'll think that he was just, left the battlefield because he was scared. He was a coward, and then they'll consider him insignificant, and then they'll talk about him in unkind words and scorn his ability. And Krishna asked him, what could be more painful than you, to have someone speak about you like that? And then he tells him, so either way, you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you'll conquer and enjoy the heavenly kingdom. So just get up and fight. But then, then he shifts in text 38. He shifts to trying to convince Arjuna to fight without thinking of happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and then telling him by doing so you won't incur sin. So he tells them, just fight, for the sake of fighting. And it's like everybody wants to have some, people are working in the world because everybody wants to get some reward. They want to get some benefit. People work hard day and night just so that they can gain so much, like a nice car, a nice wife, a nice house, nice children, and they work day and night. You can see nowadays people are working like 12, 14 hours a day just because they think they'll be gaining something from doing the work, because who else would work like that, almost all day, and all the children are put into daycare or with a nanny so that they can work hard and get those for their sense gratification, so they can get, facilities for sense gratification. So, but here, Lord Krishna now directly says that Arjuna should fight for the sake of fighting, because Krishna desires the battle. Everything should be performed for the sake of Krishna, is transcendental consciousness. So then there won't be any reactions. So I'll read some things from the Bhagavad-Gita pertaining to this point. So first, one of the points in the purport is that acting for our own sense gratification is subject to reaction, good or bad. So I'll read from Bhagavad-Gita further on, and the Nectar of Instruction too. Well, this one is about, this one I'll read last. I'll read, text 61 says, one who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence. So in the purport, Prabhupada says that the highest conception of yoga perfection is Krishna consciousness is explained in this verse. And unless one is Krishna conscious, it's not at all possible to control the senses. And then he cites the example of Maharaj Ambarish and Durvasa Muni, how Durvasa Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambarish and became angry of pride and could not check his senses. And then in 5.2, so here, Krishna is saying that the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation, but of the two, work and devotional service is better than renunciation of work. So, fruitive activities seeking sense gratification are cause for material bondage. As long as one is engaged in activities aimed at improving the standard of bodily comfort, one is sure to transmigrate to different types of bodies, thereby continuing material bondage perpetually. And then he says, I won't read all the Sanskrit, moving further down, he says, people are mad after sense gratification, and they do not know that this present body, which is full of miseries, is a result of one's fruitive activities in the past. And we know as we age, as we get older, those miseries of the body increase. You know, the body can't do what it used to do. It starts breaking down. We can see that it starts breaking down because that's what it's meant to do, to break down. The knees go, you know, the eyes go, the hearing goes. You see so many people wearing hearing aids. The eyes go, everything goes. So we see that as we progress, the material body does what it's supposed to do, which is to deteriorate. That's the nature of it. But we're trying to get in touch with our spirit soul. So he says, although this body is temporary, it's always given one trouble in many ways. Therefore, to act for sense gratification is not good. One is considered to be a failure in life as long as he makes no inquiry about his real identity. As long as he does not know his real identity, he has to work for fruitive results, for sense gratification. And as long as one is engrossed in the consciousness of sense gratification, one has to transmigrate from one body to another. Although the mind may be engrossed in fruitive activities and influenced by ignorance, one must develop a love for devotional service to Vasudeva. Only then can one have the opportunity to get out of the bondage of material existence. Okay. I think I'll read on, because here it says, therefore, gyan, or knowledge that one is not this material body, but spirit soul, is not sufficient for liberation. One has to act in the status of spirit soul. Otherwise, there's no escape from material bondage. And in my experience, as I've shared before, even though, you know, we may have difficulty with the body, I remember in my service that I used to do at the Gita Nagari farm, you know, dressing the deities, that as soon as you come in contact with the Lord in his Archa Vigraha form, and you become absorbed in that service, you don't feel anything. It's like you're actually working on the spirit soul platform, because you forget any difficulties, anything that was happening, even if you know, your body was hurting or your feet were hurting or whatever was happening. It just, that service transcended all bodily difficulties. And you don't think about it because you're so absorbed in that service. The spirit soul is so involved in that service that when you, after you get off and you finish, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot my feet are hurting, my body's giving me a problem, whatever is happening, you don't remember until after you get off, you know. But when you're on that service, when you're connected, there's no even, you know, I'm sure other devotees who've done service have had that experience. Even when you're cooking for the Lord, you're so absorbed in trying to please the Lord. When you're absorbed in trying to please the Lord, then you act on the spiritual transcendental platform, even though we may not be aware of it, except we're aware that we're no longer aware of the body. The body, think about the body, doesn't interfere with your service. It says here that action in Krishna consciousness is not, however, action on the fruitive platform. Activities performed in full knowledge strengthen one's advancement in real knowledge. No. Then there's some points from the Nectar of Devotion. Okay. This is in, which chapter? Eligibility of the candidate for accepting devotional service. It can be concluded that a person who is freed from the bodily concept of life is an eligible candidate for pure devotional service. It is also confirmed in the Bhagavad-Gita that after Brahman realization, when one is freed from material anxieties and can see every living entity on an equal level, he is eligible to enter into devotional service. As stated before, there are three kinds of happiness: material, spiritual, and devotional. Devotional service and the happiness due to its execution are not possible as long as one is materially affected. If someone has desire for material enjoyment or for becoming one with the Supreme, these are both considered material concepts. And as I was reading this, I also remember that I was, I don't know, I think I was reading it or hearing it on one of the memories tapes, where it was Hayagriva asked Srila Prabhupada about the chanting and how important is the chanting in regards to the service. And Srila Prabhupada answered him that if you are not chanting your rounds and doing the service, then it just becomes material activity. You have to be chanting your rounds in order to get the full benefit of becoming, having the devotional service, progressing from the process of devotional service. You have to be chanting your rounds. Because the impersonalists cannot appreciate the spiritual happiness of association and the exchange of loving affairs with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their ultimate goal is to become one with the Lord. This concept is simply an extension of the material idea. In the material world, everyone is trying to be the topmost head man among all his fellow men or neighbors. Either communally, socially, or nationally, everyone is competing to be greater than all others in the material concept of life. This greatness can be extended to the unlimited, so that one actually wants to become one with the greatest of all, the Supreme Lord. This is also a material concept, although maybe a little more advanced. However, the perfect spiritual concept of life is complete knowledge of one's constitutional position, in which one knows enough to dovetail himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. One must know that he is finite and that the Lord is infinite. This is not possible to actually thus it is not possible to actually become one with the Lord, even if one aspires for this. It is simply not possible. Therefore, anyone who has any desire or aspiration for satisfying his senses by becoming more and more important, either in the material sense or in the spiritual sense, cannot actually relish the really sweet taste of devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami has therefore compared possessing these bhakti and mukti desires with being influenced by the black art of a witch, in which, in both cases, one is in trouble. Bhakti means material enjoyment, and mukti means to become freed from material anxiety and to become one with the Lord. These desires are compared to being haunted by ghosts and witches, because while these aspirations for material enjoyment or spiritual oneness with the Supreme remain, no one can relish the actual transcendental taste of devotional service. A pure devotee never cares for liberation. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed to Krishna, "My dear son of Nanda, I do not want any material happiness in the shape of many followers, nor immense opulence in wealth, nor any beautiful wife, nor do I want cessation from material existence. I may take birth many times, one after another, but what I pray from you is that my devotion unto you may always remain unflinching." And then Bilvamangala Thakur has said, "If I'm engaged in devotional service unto you, my dear Lord, then very easily can I perceive your presence everywhere. And as far as liberation is concerned, I think liberation stands at my door with folded hands, waiting to serve me." So to pure devotees, therefore, liberation and spiritual emancipation are not very important things. So again, back to the point of acting for our own sense gratification, which is subject to reactions, good or bad. So whether you get a good result or a bad result, it's all the same. It's a material consciousness. So I'd like to read one more verse from Bhagavad-Gita 14, 22 to 25. This is a chapter on the three modes of material nature. So the Supreme Person of Godhead said, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal toward the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor and dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activity. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature. And actually, I was thinking about some instances in my service when, you know, we all have probably had the experience of, you know, maybe someone criticizing us or saying something that we know is not true about us, but it's also for our purification. And I remember one time, because I was also both the treasurer too, and so I remember one person was, you know, saying something about the way I did the service, the treasury service, but I went to my Guru Maharaj to tell him, and he told me, just take shelter of the Lord. You know, don't consider whether someone's saying your service is good, someone's saying your service is bad. No, just do the service, regardless of whether you're criticized or not. Just continue the service. So you just take shelter of the Lord, because He knows everything. So in the purport, is saying that Arjuna submitted 3 different questions and the Lord answers them one after another. In these verses, Krishna first indicates that a person transcendently situated has no envy and does not hanker for anything. When a living entity stays in this material world embodied by the material body, it is to be understood that he is under the control of one of the 3 modes of material nature. And when he is out of the body, then he is out of the clutches of the material modes of nature. But as long as he is not out of the material body, he should be neutral. He should engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord so that his identity with the material body will automatically be forgotten. When one is conscious of the material body, he acts only for sense gratification. But when one transfers the consciousness to Krishna, sense gratification automatically stops. One does not need this material body, and he does not need to accept the dictations of the material body. The qualities of the material modes in the body will act, but as spirit soul, the self is aloof from such activities. How does he become aloof? He does not desire to enjoy the body, nor does he desire to get out of it. Thus transcendently situated, the devotee becomes automatically free. He need not try to become free from the influence of the modes of material nature. So, we should just do our service without considering the results, not being attached to the results, just do our service. You know. So I'm gonna end here and ask if anyone has any questions, comments, criticisms, corrections. They're all welcome. And if I can't answer your question, we have so many illustrious devotees in here, I'm sure it will be answered.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
As you said that you had something, so you went to your Guru Maharaj and you asked this one, he said you should serve. I remember Prabhupada, he said, whatever the instruction Guru Maharaj he had given him, He just followed those instructions and he never went back to his guru for so many times. He hardly met his guru 4 or 5 times, he said. So the instruction what the guru is giving, we should understand properly in our mind that he has given just like a baby. When he's small, father is carrying, mother is carrying. Once he's grown up, he's independent, he's doing everything independently. He doesn't go and ask her, now I'm married, now what I should do, I have a children, now what I should do. He doesn't go and ask. He understands now this is my duty, I'm going to do my duty. So similarly in the spiritual life also we should understand that our Guru has given service, so I have to do that service and just don't go and disturb Guru that what I should do, what I should do. Why don't we simply surrender to Krishna and understand that Krishna has given me and Guru has given me my service, so I should be concentrating on my service, whether a lot of disturbances are always there in the life, and that disturbance we have to tolerate.
Yes.
Right.
As you were speaking, I was thinking of several things. One is, I remember when my Guru Maharaj was training me for my service, I would always keep going to him, asking him questions all the time. Every time he was there, I was like running with all these questions. I had a notebook that kept all the questions. And this went on for some time. Then after some time, one time I remember I went to ask him a question regarding the deity worship. And then he told me, okay, now you take care of it. You know, he wanted me to be able to make decisions, you know, about the service. And then after he left his body, and I'm always thinking that it's like you're no longer a baby. He wants to see what are you going. To me, he's present. So what are you going to do with the knowledge that I gave you? How are you going to conduct your life? You know, what decisions? Because one Mataji, she told me, Lakshmi Moni, that Krishna consciousness is a decision every second. You can, you know, you have to make a decision about, okay, what am I going to do? And so I feel that my Guru Maharaj is watching over me to see what results, you know, is, and how am I using what he's given me? You know what I mean? Like, how did he train me? You know, because then when he's not here, you have to, you know, you can get a Shiksha Guru too, but still that training and making the decisions, the correct decisions have to be there if you want to progress in spiritual life. Anyone else? Question?
You were saying how your Guru Maharaj told you just to continue to do your service, even though people may criticize you.
Yes.
So sometimes you're given a service to do, and actually it's beyond your capabilities. But on the other hand, people quote in class that when the spiritual master gives you an order, he also gives you the capability to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So this confuses me because some things I'm not capable of
doing. I'll just relate my experience. One is, I had some really heavy responsibilities, and I was feeling like it was a weight on my head and that I wasn't capable of doing it. But anytime I tried to leave the service, my Guru would say, no, you stay and do the service. So it must be for some reason that the Guru is telling you to do the service. Does anyone else want to add to it? What do you think? Because he's giving you.
Yeah. Also, I think it also comes as part of surrender.
Yes.
Because when you realize that you're not capable of doing everything by your own ability, it does help you to surrender.
I think it's in, what chapter is it? In 3, when, in Bhagavad-Gita 3, that, what's it, 3, what's the verse? When it says that the living entity thinks he's the doer of the activities.
327.
327, that he's the doer of activities when actually he's not the doer. He's not the doer of the activities.
Yeah. So I think that's also part of the learning from being given things to do that you can't do.
Yeah, then right, you're right. Then you surrender. And then Krishna gives you the ability. The spiritual master and Krishna gives you the ability because you've come out of the concept of I'm the doer, which is your false ego. Thank you. Anyone else? Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.